Welcome to RealFear Files. Tonight, we're venturing into the darkest corners of the holiday season, with 9 chilling Christmas horror stories that will make you question everything you thought you knew about this joyful time of year. From ghostly carolers who should not exist, to children disappearing from locked rooms, to shadows that linger long after the lights are out, these tales are drawn from real accounts, police reports, and eyewitness testimonies. Identities have been protected, and certain details altered, but the terror at the heart of each story remains untouched. These are not the warm, cheerful stories of Christmas you grew up with. These are the ones whispered in the dead of night, the stories that haunt families long after the decorations are gone. If you're new to RealFear Files, hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because when fear comes calling on Christmas Eve, you'll want to be ready. Now, let's uncover all 9 terrifying stories that will make you rethink the holiday season forever. First time it hit me, I thought maybe some busted radio was playing down the block. I was half lounging on the couch, tangled in a heap of moving blankets, eyes barely open. A thin thread of music slipped through the cracked window, crawling across the room. Took me a second to clock it. Voices, more than one, soft, careful, like they didn't want to wake anyone. Singing Christmas carols. Checked my phone. 3:07 a.m. Ugly green glow that made the room look sick. Outside, nothing. Just frozen snow crusted under the streetlights, a few parked cars staring blankly back at me. Dead street. No headlights, no movement. But the song, it was close, like someone was right outside a door I hadn't opened. I tried catching the words. This wasn't the usual jingles from the radio, old-fashioned, weirdly looping, making my shoulders tighten. Multiple voices, a woman, a couple of guys, and a kid. One small kid fumbling through lyrics they didn't fully know. Every time the adults hit a note, the kid dragged behind, like they were weighed down by it. Song hit the last note, long and breathy, no resolve. No coins clinking, no footsteps, just silence. I got up, annoyed more than scared, cracked the door. Porch empty. Cold slammed me in the face. Stepped out, looked up and down the block. Nothing. Just the distant highway hum. Behind me, warm air puffed out from the open door, making a small cloud around my legs. Frost untouched on the porch, yard pristine. Not a single footprint. Not even mine yet. Told myself it had to be another street. Sound bounces funny in old neighborhoods. Maybe a TV left open somewhere. Maybe kids messing around. First week in the place. Didn't know the streets. Just that. Closed the door, sank back on the couch, blaming the chill crawling up my spine on nothing but cold air. That was night 1. Night 2, same damn thing. 3:07 a.m. again. I muted the TV before the first note hit. Same melody, same slow, careful pacing. Verse after verse, never a cough, never a throat clear. Something off with their timing, like a tape slowed down. Kid's voice still lagged, still stretched words out, humming nonsense in between. Didn't open the door. Just sat in darkness, phone in hand, thumb hovering over the camera, wondering who I'd even show it to if I got proof. Song ended, silence hit, heavier than the music had been. Next morning, porch. Frost still unbroken. Even the little pile of cigarette butts left by the old tenant hadn't moved a hair. I'd moved in early December because it was cheap. Desperate, really. After the divorce, I'd spent 3 months crashing on my older sister's couch, living out of boxes, pretending it didn't sting that I got shoved out while my ex kept the nicer apartment. Warehouse job steady, paycheck modest. When this small blue house popped up on the rental site, far cheaper than anything else, I ignored the nagging voice in my head screaming, "Too good to be true." Landlord mentioned the old tenant bolted just before last Christmas. Said it like mentioning a job transfer. Light, casual. I needed the place to be better. Dusty, old paint smell, sure. Floors solid. Furnace worked. Little cherry tree in the yard, bare now, but promising. New start. New traditions. First Christmas I'd call my own. Third night. Dead tired. I crashed hard. Woke up because someone was knocking in time with the music. 3 knocks, then the song. Louder this time. Heart hammering, I sat up. Thought I'd dreamed it. Then voices swelled again, right at the front of the house. Familiar now, melody tugging at memories long buried. Still no words, no resolution. But I could anticipate the rises and falls. Knocking again. Patient. Polite. Stared at the front door, porch light glowing around frosted glass. Music creeping through the wood. Teeth felt cold. Didn't open it. Back to the kitchen, grabbed my phone, called the only person awake that late. My coworker Nate, loading trucks at night. He picked up second ring. Listened, didn't interrupt, while I rattled off the singing, knocking, 0 footprints. Light voice, trying to joke, he said maybe it was some car blaring a recording, people messing with new neighbors. Told me to ignore it. Said at least it wasn't pop music on repeat. Music died down. Silence heavier than before. Next day, I asked the old lady next door, late 60s, scowl permanent, dog barking at life. Scraping ice off her windshield. Asked if anyone still did old-school caroling late at night. She froze. "You hear singing?" she said. "Yeah, around 3 a.m. She squinted. "Keep your door locked. Don't open it after midnight. Not for anyone." Got in her car, drove off. That night, chair under the doorknob like a horror flick. Made me feel better, weak comfort. Set my phone on record, red light glowing. 3:07 a.m. hit. Audio captured it all. Voices swelling from nothing, no footsteps, no car noises. Woman's breath caught on a high note. Male voice low, rasp like old smoker. Kid's voice weaving in, humming, offbeat. Knocking came again, tapping to the music. Morning, hands shaking. I grabbed the card, loaded it. Video. Empty porch. Porch light dim yellow. Mist hugging the cold air. Time rolled 3:06 to 3:07. Audio crystal. Kid's voice laughing softly, shushed by adults. 3 knocks, then again, faster. Rhythm matching last verse. On video, nothing moved. Frost untouched. Porch still. Halfway through second verse, they said my name. Not shouted, not forced, woven into melody. I froze. Played it 4 times. Clear as day. Name threaded into a tune I'd never heard until these nights. Next morning, scoured the web. Street name plus carolers. Town plus Christmas. Singing at night plus zip code. Found an old blog, years back. Family froze to death in a car during Christmas Eve blizzard, opposite side of town. Photo, 4 of them in front of their house. Matching scarves, smiling, tired eyes. Mentioned practicing carols in the weeks before. Address listed. My street. Told myself coincidence. Accidents happen. Not a sign. But that night, the child's voice louder. Lay there in bed, staring, listening. Adults neat and perfect. Child off, rising too high, dropping too low, humming nonsense. Every time song hit a refrain, whispered my name softly, testing it, fitting it in. Pillow overhead, no help. Next day, bought a cheap motion camera, pointed at front door. Video plus audio, time-stamped. That night, 3:07 a.m. hit like clockwork. I didn't move. Lay there, chest tight, listening as the first note floated under the door, sliding through the cracks. Not a verse this time, just my name. Slow, rising, like a question being tested. For the first time since moving in, I seriously wished I was back on my sister's couch. The song twisted around the house. I could hear it move, front door, side window, then the back, like they were patrolling the property line, checking boundaries. At the kitchen window, the kid's voice pressed against the glass, bending the sound like lips on a pane. I froze, muscles locked. They were trying my name in the melody, weaving it into lines that weren't meant for it. Saints, saviors, kings, none of it fit. Didn't matter, they kept trying. Then silence. Dead silence. I didn't breathe until my alarm screamed 6 a.m. Light gray morning, house looking normal. Porch light still weakly glowing, frost delicately etched on the railings. Yard smooth, untouched. Ghost clean. Called the landlord, told him I had to break the lease. Mentioned I knew the previous tenant had bolted before Christmas too. Long pause. Then, way too quick, he agreed as long as I dropped the keys on the counter before New Year's. 2 years have passed. Apartment 3 floors up. No direct door to the outside. Windows facing another building. No porch, no yard. No way for anyone to be standing outside at 3:07 a.m., singing. Every December, as neighbors string wreaths and the radio flips playlists, I start waking early. 3-something a.m., nothing visible, just city noises. Most nights, nothing. But last Christmas Eve, my phone buzzed at exactly 3:07. No caller ID. Pressed play. 30 seconds. Enough time for that small, familiar voice to hum the twisted bars of that impossible song and whisper my name. Wrapped in the melody, impossible for it to have traveled from anywhere logical. I pressed rewind again and again, every syllable, every offbeat note. The adult stayed on melody, controlled, perfect. But the kid? Sliding, warping, laughing softly, shushed like some secret ritual. Knocking tapped the rhythm of the final verse. My name threaded through like it had always been part of it. I didn't breathe. Just stared at the frozen frame of my door. Video showed nothing moving, frost unbroken. Porch light flickered once, then held steady. Rational brain lined up every explanation. Mic malfunction, audio interference, prank, my head filling gaps. None of it explained the voices every night at 3:07. Night after night, relentless. I tried ignoring it. Moved the furniture in front of the door, triple-checked locks. Every precaution felt pathetic. They didn't care. At 3:07, the first note would slip in, curling around the walls, testing. My name inserted like a puzzle piece forced into the wrong slot. The knocking changed patterns, from polite to impatient to deliberate. Tapping along, matching the child's crooked rhythm. It was as if they were testing me, seeing how far I would let them get. I started avoiding the window, staying off the porch, pretending I didn't hear. Still, the music found me. Room corners, vents, floorboards, wherever the sound could reach. I could feel it in my teeth, in the hollow of my chest, like it was crawling under my skin. Nate, my coworker, stopped answering my calls after the first week. Joked that maybe I was imagining it and then never mentioned it again. I stopped telling anyone. People don't want to hear about sounds that vanish the second you open the door. The porch camera captured it all. Video still nothing, audio still clear. Adults' breaths, rasping, controlled. Kid, fragile, chaotic, slipping behind each beat. Laugh once, softly. Shush. Knocks keeping tempo. And then, midway through, name whispered, wrapped in the melody. I went back to that blog, trying to convince myself it was coincidence. Family lost in a blizzard. Practiced carols before dying. Address, my street. 20 years had passed. People die. Accidents happen. But logic evaporates when the song starts again, precise as a heartbeat. By the third year, I started recording every night in December. Cheap cameras, audio recorders, motion detectors. Same pattern. Same 3:07 a.m. timing. Same slow melody. Kid behind every beat. Adults perfect. Knock, knock, knock. My name repeated. Always my name. The porch light flickered, the air chilled, the sound moving around like it knew the shape of the house. My apartment high above street level doesn't matter. Windows face another building, yet the whispers and hums find me. Always. Every December. Always my name. I've stopped sleeping well in December. Panic sets in early, a low hum in the chest. Listening for silence feels dangerous. Listening for the music, worse. Can't escape it. Last Christmas Eve, it came again. 3:07. Phone buzzed with a new voice message. 30 seconds. Enough time to hum the melody, whisper my name. Impossible melody, impossible sound. The child's voice pressed through everything else, testing, teasing, measuring, whispering, naming me. I've learned nothing. Locked doors, blocked windows, furniture in front, doesn't matter. It's in the air, in the bones, in the dark spaces where sound bends. I lie there, wide awake, counting the seconds, listening, trembling, knowing exactly when it will hit. I can't open the door. Never again. All I can do is hide, breathe shallow, and wait for it to stop. And even then, I know it won't. Because every December at 3:07 a.m., somewhere out there, or maybe everywhere, the carolers arrive. And the child always remembers my name. They called it mandatory fun. That little phrase sat at the bottom of the company email, right under the jittering clip art Santa and the snowflakes that stuttered when you scrolled too fast. Some company-wide secret Santa scheme meant to slap a grin on everyone's face during a rough quarter. Participation? Strongly encouraged. Translation? Sign up or quietly kiss your name goodbye when promotions rolled around. So yeah, I wrote my name down. Didn't exactly feel like celebrating. First Christmas post-breakup, and my apartment rang hollow with absence every time I walked through the door. The office wasn't much better. Fluorescent lights humming, coffee lukewarm, garish tinsel taped halfway around the cubicle edges. At least the chatter drowned out my own thoughts sometimes. Names got drawn the first week of December. Slips of paper passed hand to hand, everyone pretending not to peek while secretly guessing. Mine? Nick for shipping. I barely knew the guy beyond the baseball bobblehead on his desk and his unshakable, "Happy Friday," every week. Folded the slip, shoved it in my pocket. Rules were basic. $20 limit, 3 small gifts, 1 per week, left anonymously. A final reveal at the pre-Christmas office party. Everyone gathered, laughed, clapped, pretending rent in January wasn't going to eat us alive. Monday morning, first gift. Almost missed it. My desk was always a mess. Sticky notes, highlighters scattered, a mug still bearing my ex's initials because I hadn't replaced it. Between keyboard and monitor, a neat little white box. No ribbons, no tags. Inside, my favorite dark chocolate bar. Exact brand, exact cocoa percentage. Froze in a second. That bar? I only bought it from the pharmacy down the street when we worked late. Pharmacy closed 6 months ago. I shrugged. Maybe someone overheard me, saw me eat it. Vanity tricking me into thinking this meant something. 2 days later, second gift. Paperback. Not a bestseller, not aisle displayed. A niche true crime book I'd left in my cart on a sleepless night, but never clicked purchase. Same edition, same cover. Tiny part of me thought I'd drunkenly ordered it, forgot. Checked my email, bank app. Nothing. A card slipped out. Handwriting tiny, precise. You will like this. Hands went icy. Only so many ways someone could track what you do alone, at 1:43 a.m., on your laptop. None of them good. Lunch rolls around. People gossiping about gifts. Socks, candles, novelty ties. Karen in HR got the exact lotion she refills the office dispenser with. People notice more than you think, she said. I repeated it to myself. People notice. Pay attention. Connect dots. That's what a good Secret Santa does. Then the third gift hit, and nuked that explanation. No wrapping this time. Just there, on my chair. Friday morning, early. Month-end chaos. Boss CC'd 3 extra managers in the reminder email. Mug. Plain white ceramic. Words in familiar black print. I know what you did last Christmas. I laughed. Joke, right? Movies, memes, generic gag. But no, it hit me like a punch. Last Christmas, I'd done something private, shameful. Told a white lie about a flight cancellation so I could skip my ex's family dinner. Sat in the airport parking lot, rehearsing tears. No one knew. Not friends, not sister, not therapist. First reaction. Anger. Some jerk pranking me. Overhearing, overreaching. But the mug. This wasn't casual. You had to choose that phrase, decide it was right for me. Checked the bottom. No brand. Company name only. Print on demand. Custom text. Placed it behind my monitor, hiding it. HR sent an email about the office party. Catered lunch, recognition ceremony, Secret Santa unmasking. 3 mentions of inappropriate gifts, clothing, language, personal references. I stared at the mug, mind racing. Weekend? No sleep. Eyes closed, looping questions. Who knew what I read? What I almost bought? Where I was last Christmas? And why did it matter enough to make a game out of it? Monday, office decked in cheap festivity. Fake tree, copper ornaments, red plastic tablecloths on break room tables. Bluetooth speaker quietly muttering carols. At 11 a.m., we gathered. Paper plates, flimsy forks, lukewarm pasta, laughter rising and falling on cue. Secret Santa unmasking, accounting first. Groans, applause, embarrassed smiles. People guessing wrong, laughing when correct. Halfway through, my name called. Lights too bright. Boss grinning like it was the highlight of his week. Whoever has Nick, bring your final gift. Movement behind the crowd. Chairs scraping, shoes squeaking. Box passed to me. Plain brown paper, no tag. Tape peeled slow. Nervous murmurs. Inside, black plastic box, paperback sized. Portable hard drive. No branding, just USB port. Note taped on. You are not supposed to be here. Room edges blurred. Jokes about expensive Santa, holiday collections. Boss claps. Back to work in 20. Emily, thank your Santa. I held the drive, feeling disconnected. You are not supposed to be here. A dozen ways to read it, none comforting. Back at my desk. Tiny room off main hallway, private workspace. Lock busted, window overlooking parking lot. Plugged in the hard drive. Nothing at first. Then, folder with date I moved in. 43 video files, all named with dates and times. Clicked earliest. Grainy view, my bedroom. Bed, piles of boxes, laundry. Sleeping that dead, heavy sleep, only moving all your life 3 flights of stairs can buy. Lamp on, blinds half closed. Shadow in corner. Just inside doorway. Shoulder, arm, head slightly turned. Watching. Never fully stepped in. File ends at 2:17. Next video, different night, same bed, same vantage. Figure closer now. Edge of hallway light, boot visible, hem of coat. Still never crossed threshold. I went through file after file. Some nights I tossed. Some nights lay still. Figure always near doorway, partially hidden. Camera almost refusing to see them fully. On the 202nd file, whisper. Soft. Almost lost in white noise of building heat. Turn volume up. Clear. I know what you did last Christmas. Not accusing, not angry. Just fact, tired amusement. Stopped. Stared. Reflection in dark screen. Double face, pale, drawn. Last file. Today's date. Timestamp 23:59. Shouldn't exist yet. Click. Black screen. Then white text. We will finish your gift tonight. Cursor blinking. Hard drive felt alive on desk. Yanked USB. Screen flickered. Folder gone. Heart pounding. Every office sound amplified. Phones, printers, laughter too high. Explanations? Sure. Breaking in, hidden camera, cruel joke, digital prank. But one detail. First video, moving night. Me collapsing face first on bed, dusty clothes. Shadow at doorway shifted as I dragged last box in. Hands moved on their own. Hard drive back in box. Walked to HR. Filed harassment complaint. Notes taken. Promised investigation. Expected relief leaving box behind. Didn't happen. It just spread thinner, wider. Life already infected. That night, lights on. Door open. TV low. Forced myself awake past midnight, past 1, 2, 3 a.m., eyes closed anyway. Alarm screamed. Missed call. Unknown. 2:43. No voicemail. Hallway. Motion sensor flicked. Deadbolt locked. Chain in place. Small brown box at doorframe. No return address. Inside, white ceramic mug. Words. See you at work. The mug sat there on my desk like a warning. See you at work. My chest tightened. Legal said they'd escalate the hard drive. IT traced networks, monitored access, promised to find whoever was behind this. HR assured me it was contained inside the building. But the dread didn't fade. It just seeped into everything. I held my old mug again, the one with my ex's initials. Familiar weight in my hands, something I understood. Still, every December, the company email hit my inbox. Secret Santa sign-up. Smiling clip art Santa, glittering snowflakes, mandatory fun. I delete it without hesitation. No curiosity, no risk. The office still ran its holiday routine. Laughter, cheap tinsel, plastic trees. People compared gifts, joked about over-the-top presents. Some ask why I don't join. I smile, mumble about budget, fatigue, or wanting a quiet season. Never tell the truth. Never admit someone turned my life into a gift I never asked for, and that it isn't finished. Weeks later, a different mug appeared in my apartment hallway. Plain white ceramic again, nestled in red shredded tissue. No return address. Same handwriting style. Words stark against the surface. "We will finish your gift tonight." My blood ran cold. I froze, staring at it like it had sprouted fangs. The air felt thick, heavy. Every shadow seemed to shift closer. My mind scrambled for logical explanations. No UPS sticker, no postmark. No one could have entered without me noticing. And yet, there it was. I plugged the old USB into my laptop once more. System flickered. Folder gone. My reflection stared back, pale, wide-eyed, unsteady. Then I noticed a new icon blinking faintly in the corner of the desktop. A single video file. Today's date, 23:59. My hands trembled as I double-clicked. Black screen. Then the words appeared, centered, stark white. "Tonight, we finish." Cursor blinked like a heartbeat. My pulse matched it, thudding in my ears. I could almost hear the faint rustle of someone moving behind my bedroom door, a breath against the wall. I tried to rationalize. Prank. Hack. Glitch. Could someone be inside the building, monitoring our apartments? But each explanation fell apart under the sheer precision. The first moving night video still haunted me. Shadow just inside the doorway, unmoving, waiting. Every file after that, a chronicle of my life, watched, catalogued. I forced myself to sit, heart hammering, eyes darting to every corner. Shadows pooled unnaturally. Time slowed. I couldn't bring myself to look at the new mug again. Its presence alone made the walls feel tighter, the air heavier. Legal and HR had promised action, assurances, protocols. But reality didn't comply with assurances. Whoever, or whatever, was doing this wasn't worried about rules or cameras. They were patient, methodical, precise. They had already mapped the hours, the habits, the small details no one else would notice. I slept with lights blazing. Bedroom door cracked. Television buzzing softly in the background. Eyes shut with effort, counting minutes, trying to stay awake, pretending I could resist exhaustion. Past midnight. Past 1. Past 2. Around 3, my body betrayed me. Heavy sleep claimed me before I was ready. When I awoke, heart hammering, the alarm blaring, something had changed. Motion sensor in the hallway flickered on as I stepped out. My apartment door locked, chain secured. And yet, a new box leaned against the frame. No markings, brown paper, plain. Inside, nestled in red tissue, a mug. White ceramic, words clear, familiar, terrifying. "See you at work." The office now had cameras. Surveillance installed in the break room, hallways, even around the Secret Santa setup. Policies, memos, handbook updates, everything to prevent harassment, protect employees. They promised to track, to catch, to stop. But the dread persisted. Every December, I knew exactly when it would arrive. The gift, the warning, the mug. Every year, at the same time, with the same unrelenting precision. Coffee in my ex's initialed mug. Familiar, grounding. But the sound of a package at the door in December makes me jump. Deleting the Secret Santa email has become instinct, Avoidance is survival. And still, I cannot shake the feeling. Somewhere, hidden in a folder, waiting, time-stamped for a future date, lies the next part of the gift. A countdown. Patience measured in hours, minutes, seconds. The kind of meticulous patience that only a watcher, a stalker, or something far stranger could maintain. My life folded into their narrative. Every small detail recorded, every action catalogued. And the gift? Not done. Never done. I tell myself it's over. I tell myself deleting the sign-up, avoiding the office chatter, ignoring the mugs makes me safe. But in the deep, dark hours of December, when the city hums quietly and the air presses heavy against my windows, I remember the whisper from the grainy videos. I know what you did last Christmas. And I know, without doubt, it's not finished. Every light on, door locked, TV humming, trying to hold the pieces of normal life together. But the knowledge sits heavy, like a pulse in my veins. That gift, begun months ago, is patient, watching, waiting. And someday, maybe not this December, maybe not the next, the rest will arrive. The terror is not the mug, the videos, or even the messages. It's knowing someone, or something, has all the pieces of your life. And like a master of ceremonies, they are saving the finale, waiting for the perfect moment to deliver it. And all you can do is pretend to be safe, sip coffee from a mug you understand, and pray the countdown doesn't end tonight. The year my kids started believing in Santa again, sleep packed up and left me. He was 8 that December, legs like stilts, teeth missing, the kind of small that could curl into your side on the couch, but just big enough to spit questions that made your brain stall. We'd just landed in a tiny one-story house on Pineview, the kind of place that smelled faintly of paint and stress, after a custody battle that shredded both my savings and my nerves. Nothing fancy. 2 bedrooms, a cramped kitchen, living room carpet the color of bleached oatmeal. Yard enough for a sad inflatable snowman. A front window that opened onto the street. To me, he said, pressing his nose to the chilled glass, that means Santa can see us now. He skipped the apartment because we had no chimney. I didn't have the guts to tell him the mall Santa always smelled like cigarettes, cheap cologne, and disappointment you'd recognize anywhere. So I nodded. Yeah, buddy. He'll see us this year. First decoration, a string of colored lights on the roofline. Second, a pair of plastic reindeer for the yard. Daylight made them look cheap, like dime store rejects, but snow and night gave them a flicker of magic. Third, a deadbolt for the back door, after the neighbor leaned over the fence one Saturday while I wrestled a ladder. Heads up, she said. Last year, someone's been breaking into houses with big Christmas setups, wanted the presents, or maybe just the show. She laughed like it was folklore. My stomach twisted like she'd just given me a warning I couldn't ignore. I told myself, new house, new locks, fresh start. The first weird thing could have been brushed off. Third night, lights all strung, snowman glowing, roofline twinkling. Reindeer? Dead. Dark shadows on the lawn. I cursed, grabbed my jacket, and stomped into the icy yard. Extension cord pulled out from the back step outlet. Plug lying on the concrete like a finger pointing at the sky. No obstacles, no slack. Someone had to have yanked it. Maybe I didn't push it in right. Maybe the cord's weight. Maybe. Second thing was harder to shrug off. 2 mornings later, frost on the car. 4 finger marks pressed in, adult-sized. Beneath them, the letters Merry Karis, wobbling like they'd been traced with gloves. I froze under the thin morning light, ghosts of cold on my skin, staring. No one else had marks. Neighbors' cars glimmered clean. Could have been kids, probably were, but the way the letters stopped halfway, the X and Xmas gouged like a nail in ice, my ribs coiled tight. I wiped it away before he came out. Third thing, mailed. Christmas card. Glossy, perfect, kids in matching PJs. Envelope blank except for our address and a forever stamp. No return, no note. Inside, a single photo, not snowy family cheer. My old apartment living room, snapped from outside at night. Through the window, him, 2 years younger, curled under a superhero blanket, cartoon glow painting his face. Reflected faintly, my ex and I at opposite ends, phones in hand. Flipped it over. No words, just our names in block letters along the bottom, captioned. Postmark local, black smear instead of date. Rational mind said, someone we knew, weird humor, access to a print shop. But the angle kept gnawing. Taken high, looking down slightly. Only spot like that? The old fire escape, the one we never used. I shoved it in the junk drawer under the microwave. Drama, I told myself. Burglaries stopped months ago. Security light working. Deadbolt solid. Still, bedtime, I checked every window, every door. Twice. Old habits die hard. Fear used to live in every shadow. Friday before Christmas, the back door looked normal. Deadbolt locked, chain latched. Floor? A line of dark footprints streaking across the linoleum to the carpet edge. Not full prints, just hints. Damp tread like someone stepped in, paused, stepped back. No mud outside. Yard frozen, snow clean, steps untouched. Only those half-prints, drying, dark against the kitchen tiles. He came in, chatter about school clipped short at the sight. Did the mailman come inside? His voice, brittle with forced cheer. I lied. From work, I'll clean it up. He nodded too fast. That night, after he dozed on the couch watching a Christmas movie, I carried him to bed, snug under the old superhero blanket. Sat on the edge of the bed a long minute, listening to his slow, even breathing. Something heavy settled in my chest. Nobody was taking this from him. Not this house, this tree, this Christmas. Christmas Eve, I set up the baby monitor. Hand-me-down from my sister, tiny square of plastic with a single lens and speaker. Perched it on the bookshelf, eyes on couch, tree, front window, part of the hallway. "Why the baby camera?" he mumbled, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "Gotta catch Santa," I said, forcing a smile. "If he shows, we'll know." His grin went real. We laid out cookies and milk. He insisted on a carrot for the reindeer. I didn't tell him it'd freeze solid by the drafty window. 10 o'clock, bedtime. "I want to stay up," he whined. "Rules, kid. Santa doesn't come if you watch." Took half an hour to settle him. Door cracked, hall light a thin strip across the carpet. Living room? Everything off but the tree. Colored lights blinking slow, throwing moving shadows on walls. Front door locked, chain latched. Back door deadbolt locked, chain in place. Kitchen window locked, bedroom windows latched. Baby monitor screen on my nightstand, glowing faint blue. I lay fully dressed, listening as the house groaned. Pipes ticked, heater hummed. I must have dozed. Screen flared. Static first, gray noise, then the image resolved. Living room empty. Couch dark shadow. Tree, tower of blinking lights. Digital clock read 0:17. Eyes burning, I stared. Nothing moved. Drifted again. A faint shift in the air jerked me awake. Not a bang, not a slam, just the softest trace, like a door opening somewhere down the hall. On the screen, the living room looked different. My son was there, bundled small on the couch, curled into himself like a shadow under the superhero blanket. I didn't remember carrying him out. Knees tucked to chest, hair sticking up in little tufts, one arm dangling over the edge. Plate of cookies on the table, one missing. For a second, I thought I'd done it in my sleep. Placed him there, staged it. But then, movement. From the hallway side, a figure slid into frame. The monitor flattened it into gray and noise, but details crept through. Red coat, white trim, round thing on the head. Santa? My mind tried to fill in the gaps. No, the movement was off. Too careful, too deliberate, like it was counting beats between each footfall. Stopped at the edge of the coffee table, inches from my son's hand. Head turned toward the camera. Face broken into blocks of light and shadow, features lost in static. Tilt, angle, stomach twisting. Whoever it was knew exactly where the camera sat. One hand rose, something small and white clutched between gloved fingers. The missing cookie. Lifted in a mock toast at the lens, set down with surgical care, crumbs aligned. Then the figure leaned toward him, crouched. Arms awkward, joints stiff like the body didn't fully obey. Gloved hand hovered over his hair, inches away. Other hand brushed the blanket's edge. I didn't think. Legs carried me down the hallway, floor slapping under me, heart hammering against ribs. Hallways felt stretched, thick air like swimming through tar. Burst into the living room, empty. Couch still there, cushions neat, blanket gone. Tree lights blinking slow, cookies untouched, carrot frozen near the window. Dad? His voice floated behind me. I spun. Pajamas, wild hair, rubbing eyes. What are you doing? You scared me. He blinked up at me. I looked from him to the couch, plate, locked doors. I thought I heard something, I said. My voice cracked. He padded into the living room, glanced at the tree, then the window. Do you think he came yet? Not yet, I said. Can I sleep on the couch in case? His hands reached for the folded blanket. I wanted to say no. Every fiber screamed no. Fine, I said, but I'm out here too. I didn't sleep. Not a wink. Morning hit, and the tree had presents. Cheap paper from the dollar store crinkled as he tore through them. Squeals like each toy was a miracle. He didn't notice the extra one. Small square box, red wrap, no tag. I waited until he ran off to play, opened it. Inside. Photo. Black and white, blurry at the edges. My living room. Same angle as the monitor. On the couch, him asleep under the blanket, one hand dangling. Standing over him, hand hovering inches from his hair, figure in a Santa suit. Face? Altered. Too pale, too smooth, like the features had been rubbed away. Eyes gone, just gray hollows catching the tree lights. On the back, tiny handwriting. Thank you for believing. I took it to the cops that afternoon. Polite, worried. Locked doors? Anyone watching? Anyone wanting to scare you? They copied the photo, the monitor footage. Weeks later, a man arrested for holiday break-ins. Another street, another house. Couldn't pin him to ours, but probably him. Officer shrugged. People do weird stuff around the holidays. Sometimes they put on a costume, feel invisible. I changed the locks anyway. Next Christmas, my son still pressed his face to the window, eyes bright. Do you think he'll come again? I glanced at the wall where the monitor once perched, then to the drawer where I hid the photo cops let me keep. Couldn't toss it. Careful words. We'll keep the curtains closed this year. He frowned. Will he still know we're here? I didn't look at the window. He always knows, I said. The season passed, but the fear lingered. The snow fell, lights twinkled, and the cheap plastic reindeer stood sentinel in the yard. Every night I checked locks, doors, windows, traced every shadow, every corner with eyes wide, heart thumping like it might burst. And still, the memory of that red coat, the stiff movement, and the way the figure had known exactly where the camera was, haunted me. No new photo arrived that year. No footprints on the frozen linoleum. But I never relaxed. Even with the curtains drawn, I imagined it, him, sliding past the glass, careful and deliberate, leaving no trace except the memory burned into my chest. My son, blissfully unaware, believed. That innocence, that small burst of light in the middle of a dark, broken season, became the only thing worth guarding. I told myself the cost of belief was mine alone. Sleep? Gone. Peace? Gone. But the house, the tree, the miracle of a child believing, untouchable. Every December, I hung the lights again, blew up the cheap snowman, positioned the reindeer just so. Each year I double-checked the deadbolt, the chain, every latch I could get my hands on. The terror of last year's intrusion remained, a shadow in every corner, a presence behind every pane of glass. But my son pressed his forehead to that frosty window, dreaming of sleighs and toys, unaware of the sharp edge of reality just outside. And sometimes, late at night, when the house was breathing quietly, I swore I caught a flash of red in the corner of the streetlight glow. But when I blinked, it was gone. Always gone. And I knew, with that creeping certainty, he'd always know we were here. My sister's town looked like a snow globe someone couldn't stop shaking. Every December, the same frozen scenes replayed like a broken tape. Kids in puffy jackets dragged sleds down the hill in the center of town. The diner windows fogged with steam and fryer smoke. The Christmas tree in the square leaned harder every year, patched with duct tape that never changed. Folks called it tradition, stubborn enough to keep what should have been replaced. I hadn't been back in years. City life swallowed my holidays whole, left no space for small-town magic. Then my sister called in the fall. "Come for Christmas. The kids keep asking about Aunt Lucy." Her voice was frayed at the edges, trembling just enough to push me to book the ticket before logic could talk me out of it. Her house was near the edge of town, where the plows came last and the woods pressed close to the back fence. Not exactly remote, but stand in the yard and all you saw was trees, snow, and the dim glow of other people's Christmas lights through the branches. Mia met me at the door on the 22nd. She wore a sequined reindeer sweater that blinked red and green like it had a pulse. She grabbed my hand and dragged me inside before I could second-guess stepping out of the car. "You came late," she said, like we'd already been arguing. "Missed the first night." "The first night of what?" I asked, wrestling my suitcase into the hallway. My sister leaned in the kitchen doorway, dish towel over her shoulder, rolling her eyes. "The reindeer tracks," she said. "You remember?" Vaguely. It was a small-town ritual. Each Christmas week, volunteers went around at night stamping fake hoofprints in yards, so kids could wake up and swear Santa's reindeer had practiced on their lawn. When we were little, we'd press against frosted glass, squealing at the clumsy tracks. "You'll see tomorrow," Mia said, voice sharp. "Tonight is mine." I assumed they rotated turns. I was dead wrong. That night, we had hot chocolate loaded with sugar. We watched a movie where a dog saved Christmas. My brother-in-law scrolled emails like the world depended on it. At 10, my sister called bedtime. "They start early," she said, in the hallway outside Mia's room. "Some work night shifts, just go straight from the plant." Mia insisted on sleeping with the blinds open. "So I don't miss anything," she said. Her room faced the street. She lay on her stomach, chin propped on her hands, staring into the black beyond like something could slip out of it. "You won't see them while awake," my sister warned, flicking off the light. "I'll hear them," Mia replied, certainty in her tone curling tight behind my ribs. Morning, I forgot until her scream cracked through the house. Not terror, not panic. Pure, sharp joy echoing off the ceilings and walls. I stumbled out of bed, hair wild, socks sliding. She was at the window already, palms pressed to glass. "Look! Look, look, look!" she shouted without turning. The yard was chaos. Tracks crisscrossed, piled up, pressed deep in snow. From above, like a kid scribbled with a white pencil. Up close, a jumble of depressions, some jagged, some clustered, some dropped out of nowhere. Not like the tidy reindeer stamps we remembered. These were alive in their randomness, sneaking right to her window. "Wow," I said carefully. "They went all out this year." My sister joined us, robe wrapped tight. Her expression flickered, thoughtful, not amused, before she said, "They came early, before dawn." "How do you know?" She shrugged too fast. "Mia heard bells." "Probably the plow," I said. "They must have hit our street first." Mia tugged my sleeve, whispering, "Not bells, breathing." Her voice was flat, like stating a fact no one questioned. "What kind of breathing?" I asked, trying to sound playful. "Like Dad running up the stairs with laundry," she said, finally. "But heavier. It scraped the window." She ran a finger along the glass, mimicking the sound. My sister looked at me over Mia's head, mouthing, "Later." Later, in the kitchen over bitter coffee, she admitted, "Mia's been having nightmares for weeks. Keeps saying there's something at the window. We thought streetlight shadows, you know how kids are. Maybe move her room?" I suggested the back, looking out at trees. "Not better," my sister said. She checked the front door deadbolt twice before we left for town. Walking past the square, past the leaning tree, past yards lined with neat tracks, I noticed one house. The prints clustered near the siding, under a kid's window. A boy stood there, solemn, almost offended. "They skipped us last year," he told his dad. His father ruffled his hat, muttering about Santa getting old. That night, I offered to sleep on the floor in Mia's room. In case the bells come back. She hesitated. "You can't scare them off. They don't care about grown-ups, only kids." I swallowed hard. "Then I'll just be there, so you can wake me if you get scared." She moved aside, letting me spread my sleeping bag on the rug. Blinds half open, the streetlight casting a thin cone on the snow. We whispered about nothing. School, the dog she wanted, bedtimes that weren't fair. Her sentences drifted into little hums as she fell asleep. I stared at the window rectangle, listening. The house settled. Somewhere down the block, a fridge whined. The vents hissed. Faint laughter dissolved in the snow. After midnight, it stopped. That's when I heard it. Not bells, not a movie jingling. A slow exhale fogged the air just outside the glass. I felt it in my teeth, vibrating through me. Pause. Another breath. A scrape, soft, like something hard dragged along the siding. I propped myself up, heart pounding. Streetlight reflection hit the window. For a second, I saw a face in the glass, distorted. Then the shape shifted, a darker shadow sliding along the frame. Too high to be a yard person, too broad for a branch unless the trees had grown teeth. The breathing was steady, slow in and out. I imagined the zoo, lion enclosure, standing too close at 8. Mia twitched beside me, fingers curling into the blanket. I didn't want to wake her, didn't want to not. The scrape came again, higher. Whatever it was tall, or standing on something, or not standing at all. I didn't move, not a centimeter. Every gut instinct screamed that touching the glass meant being seen. Minutes stretched, hours maybe, until the breathing hitched like a sigh, then vanished. The silence landed so sudden my ears rang. Gray light leaked around the blinds. Mia woke with the sun. She went straight to the window. "They came again?" she asked. Face fell. The yard was smooth, empty, perfect. No tracks, no scratches, no chaotic mess. Just snow sparkling in pale light. "Maybe they're busy," my sister said, voice too bright. "They forgot," Mia whispered. Her shoulders slumped. Her disappointment gnawed at me more than my unease. After breakfast, Mia buried herself in a puzzle while my brother-in-law warmed up the car. My sister and I stepped outside. The cold hit sharp, slicing into my lungs. Snow squeaked under boots. "Look," I said, pointing. Nothing. She hugged herself, staring at the yard. "The plow," I suggested. "They don't hit our street until noon," she said slowly. I squinted at the other yards. Yesterday, every lawn had tracks. Today? Smooth, unbroken, pristine, like someone had laid a fresh layer of snow over everything. Beautiful, if beauty didn't make your skin crawl. By Christmas morning, the town council had axed the reindeer tracks. No reason, just a notice on the diner bulletin board, sandwiched between ads for snow shoveling and lost mittens. People grumbled. Kids pouted. Old-timers shrugged, muttering that some things are best left alone. That night, my last in town, I went to tuck Mia in. "Maybe they'll come next year," I said. "They don't need to," she said, rolling onto her back, eyes on the ceiling. "They know where we live now." Something about how she said it made the room shrink, corners crowding in. "Did you hear them again?" I asked, voice small. She nodded just enough to notice, almost imperceptibly. "In the day, in my dream," she whispered. But her eyes were open. Not a dream, not really. I didn't push, didn't ask, didn't want to know. The next morning I left, suitcase heavier than it should have been. Packed with gifts and something else, something I couldn't put in a bag. Back in my city apartment, the snow outside only held footprints of dogs and delivery drivers. My windows faced a brick wall. No streetlights, no soft glow cutting through winter darkness. Still, sometimes in the thin hours, with the radiators clanking and wind threading the alleys, I wake with the clear, undeniable sense that something stepped away from the glass. Always. Never leaves a mark. Never has. But every December, my sister sends pictures of Mia's room, decked out for Christmas. I see the same thing every year. Blinds closed, tight, like shadows and figures are a reality too heavy to risk. The first night back in that town, the memory of snow, of breath fogging the glass, of tracks that defied reason, sticks in my chest. The reindeer tracks weren't playful that year. They were a warning, an announcement, something that belonged to the shadows, that only existed when kids believed, when night was thick and the streets empty. I think about that exhale against the window, the scrape that climbed, deliberate, up the siding. I remember Mia twitching, her small fingers curling around the blanket, her chest rising and falling with steady, childlike trust in things unseen. I wasn't supposed to see it. I wasn't supposed to know. But I did. And the fear never really left. Sometimes I replay that night in my head, like a grim movie with no credits. The shadow sliding, the cold fog, the weight of it pressing against reality. I picture it standing there, just on the other side, aware, patient, watching, waiting for the next December, for the next window where the magic and the terror meet. Mia's small certainty, her voice like steel over velvet, lingers. They only look at kids. That sentence hums in my chest. It isn't just holiday myth. It isn't tradition. It's something else. Something older. Something that moves when we're not looking, that weighs and measures, that knows where we sleep, who sleeps beside us, who dares to watch. In the city, I try to shake it off. I try to convince myself that what I saw in her room, that shape outside the window, the deliberate footprint chaos, the fogging breath, was imagination, was a trick of lights, or maybe city stress bleeding into memory. But then the shadows lean too close in the alley. The radiator ticks in a rhythm that feels like counting. And I know the feeling, the skin crawl of being observed, the undeniable impression that something stepped away just as I blinked. It doesn't need a name, doesn't need a face, doesn't need explanation. It is enough that it exists, patient and precise, lingering in that space where winter darkness meets childhood belief. Every December, when I see Mia's pictures, when I close my eyes to the hum of radiators and wind, I feel it again. The knowledge that someone, or something, is always just outside the frame. Watching, waiting, certain. The blinds remain closed. Every year. A small act of defiance against the unseen. A barrier against whatever rules this strange, dark holiday magic. And I do not question it, because I have felt it. And I know, no tracks, no marks, no noise will ever mean it isn't there. I sit in my apartment, listen to the wind scrape against bricks, and remember. Remember the breath on the glass, the heavy exhale, the scrape up high. The way Mia twitched beside me, half asleep, half knowing. Remember the chaos of tracks, the silent streets, the frost-etched letters. Remember how I felt, pressed into that thin window light, every muscle coiled with fear. And I know the truth now. There are things in the world that don't follow rules, that only come out for children, for the believers, for the watchers of winter nights. And when they do, you don't see them, at least not fully. You only feel the press of air, the faint exhale, the scrape on siding, the certainty in tiny voices that know more than we ever will. Mia sleeps on, blissfully unaware, but I carry it in me. Every December, when snow falls, when lights twinkle faintly through frost, I feel it there. Outside, watching, waiting, knowing. The blinds are closed, always, and I don't look. The gravel gave out halfway down the road. My GPS kept insisting we were still on track, even as the asphalt ended and the world shrank to two muddy ruts frozen stiff. The sky was that flat, leaden December gray that made it impossible to tell morning from evening, and the radio had long since dissolved into static. "This is exactly how horror flicks start," Mason said, fiddling with his coffee cup, peeling the label off like he was preparing for battle. "In horror movies, it's nighttime," Jack shot back from the back seat. "We're golden. Daylight, Christmas trees, cocoa, selfies." He had found this place, some late-night scrolling, a pop-up ad for Midnight Pines, open until 10. He liked the idea of a night farm, lights dangling through the branches, stars pinned above. Something about this first solo Christmas not feeling like a sad trip to a Walmart lot. "And it's cheap," he added, leaning between the seats. "Half off if you cut your own." "Because no one can actually find it," I muttered, as we squinted at a crooked, hand-painted sign. "Midnight pines, Christmas trees, hot cocoa, cash only." An arrow pointed down a narrower, sketchy track, where meeting another car meant a decision on whose fender got mauled first. "Left," Jack said. "Let's move." We hadn't driven 40 minutes for nothing. The clearing surprised me. Bigger than I imagined. Flat, cut into the woods, snow packed underfoot. A few cars already scattered, rusty sedans, a minivan missing a hubcap, a pickup with a thin dusting of white across the bed. Beyond them, the farm stretched, row after row of trees, some already chosen, stumps and brown dirt showing where others had been. Strings of bare bulbs hummed faintly, tinting the snow yellow. By the entrance, a leaning plywood booth hosted a woman in a faded red knit cap and a coat that had probably seen the Reagan era. She waved. "Welcome to Midnight Pines." Her breath curled in the cold air. "Saws are by the shed. Pick a tree, drag it back, we'll net it for you. Cocoa's free, tips welcome." Her cheer was rehearsed, but not hostile. I paid for the three of us, more cash than needed, and tried not to think about how far we were from anything that resembled a road. Aaron grabbed a saw, for the gram more than necessity, and we headed into the rows. It got quieter between the trees. Faint murmurs from other hunters, the occasional shout when someone found a prize. The creak of the netting machine faded behind us. Snow swallowed the rest. "This is actually kind of cool," Mason admitted after a few minutes, tilting his head to look up at the tallest evergreens, their needles black against the gray sky. "See?" Jack said. "Not a horror movie. Hallmark special, maybe." We walked. The rows lost order the deeper we went. Some trees leaned, others stunted and lonely, branches sparse. Some too perfect, precise, like someone had airbrushed them. "Not this one," Jack said at every stop. "Too skinny, too tall, too sad, too Charlie Brown." Cold crept through my boots, fingers cramped around the saw. I was about to suggest grabbing anything and heading back when I heard it. A rustle. Not snow falling off a branch. Not ice cracking underfoot. Something heavier. "Did you hear that?" I asked. Mason rolled his eyes. "Of course I heard it. Trees move, Caleb. That's their thing." "There's no wind," I said. He stopped, squinting. The trees stood frozen, needles stiff, painted on. "If it's a bear," Jack said, half joking, "I'm taking the car keys and running." We kept moving. The glow from the bulbs faded behind us, turning into distant, lonely dots between trunks. The rustle came again, deliberate, somewhere to our right. "Probably another group," Mason said. "The lot's not empty." "Then why aren't they talking?" I asked. Silence pressed down. Our boots crunched loud in the stillness. Something else crunched in rhythm with us. I stopped. The sound didn't. One step. Two. Then nothing. Three idiots with a saw standing in the middle of a row, realizing we'd wandered too deep. Jax laughed, forced. "Okay, maybe it's a horror movie, but we can still bail before the second act." He scanned the trees. Abruptly, he pointed at a mid-sized fir with a decent shape. "This one. Perfect. The best tree ever treed. Let's cut it and go." He knelt, brushing aside the lower branches. "Hand me the saw." I passed it. He slid the blade against the trunk. Teeth rasped wood, and a shiver ran through me. "That noise should be illegal," Mason muttered.
Better than whatever's out there, Jack said.
He cut, muscles straining under the jacket, breath misting. That's when I saw it. Marks on the far side of the trunk. Gouges. 4 long, parallel scratches, too evenly spaced for a storm. "Guys," I started. "Not guys like that," Mason snapped. "Talk like a normal person, not like you found a cursed relic." "There are claw marks," I said. Both froze. Jax glanced up. "Maybe someone's dog, or the farm cat." "Yeah, right. Raccoons can pick locks now. They have thumbs." "No. Too high. Lowest mark at shoulder, top near Jax's eye." He straightened, brushing snow off. "Maybe they nailed something to it and it got ripped off," he tried. "Then where's the nail?" Mason asked. Silence. Fresh scratches. Pale, damp wood, sap still sticky. Whoever did it recently. Rustle. Closer. Low branches pushed aside, something moving strangely, shifting from low to high like it had parts in multiple spaces at once. "We should go back," I said. "With or without the tree?" Jax asked. "Whatever keeps us walking straight," I said. "Grab it. Let's move." He hauled the trunk. It swayed, toppled, branches whipping. Needles rained, sharp and clean. As we dragged it, I caught something else. Tracks. Not ours. Depressions weaving through the rows. Not hooves exactly, too long, too narrow at the front, tapering sharp, back end a shallow smear. Spacing all wrong. Odd, loping stride. "Tell me those are sled marks," Mason said. "Sleds don't walk around trees," I said. We didn't talk much after that, just moved, dragging, lungs burning. Every glance back, those tracks lingered on the edge of vision, paths avoiding a head-on view. Finally, the main lights appeared, buzzing faintly. Voices drifted, laughter cracked too loud. A dad swore at an ambitious spruce. By the booth, my arms burned. Jax dropped his end, bent over. "Nice choice," the woman said, stepping out. "You boys went deep." "We wanted authentic," Jax panted. She chuckled, then froze, eyes snagging the trunk. "What happened here?" Her cheer faltered. "Must have caught it with the tractor," she said fast. "Sometimes we bump them clearing paths. No harm." Her eyes didn't match her tone. "You have wildlife issues?" I asked. "Just deer," she said, "and a coyote now and then. Don't bother people." She netted the tree faster than before. We drank cocoa, fingers on the styrofoam, thin, too sweet, but tasting like a childhood Christmas before rent, layoffs, bad exes, and overdue notices. "Okay," Mason said, finally exhaling. "Say it. We all noticed it." "The tracks," I said. "The whatever," he said. "Was it a weird deer? Mutant elk? Christmas demon? I need a label." "A big animal," Jax said. "We're in the woods. Big things happen. The end." By the time the tree was tied to the roof, dusk was swallowing the dirt track. Bare bulbs glowed brighter in the dark as we pulled out. Halfway down, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. No message. Just a photo. I shouldn't have looked, yet I did. The screen lit up with our car in the lot, snapped from somewhere behind the trees. Aaron and Mason were visible, straining with the ropes, breaths ghosting in the cold. I stood off to one side, half blurred, and that's when my stomach dropped. In the shadows between the nearest pines, something pale pressed against the dark. Not antlers exactly, more like bone joints, branching in ways that made my eyes refuse to focus. The photo flickered. For a second, the shape lurched closer, edges sharpening like it had been caught mid-motion, the image barely holding it in place. "Everything okay?" Mason asked, noticing my hands tightening on the wheel. "Spam," I muttered, shoving the phone into the cup holder. By the time we hauled the tree up the stairs to Aaron's apartment, it left a trail of needles like breadcrumbs. We plopped it in the corner, near the window, straightened it, tightened the stand. "Perfect," Aaron said, stepping back, a real smile this time. "First tree in the new place." "Looks like Christmas," I said. Cheap lights, mismatched ornaments from thrift stores, all strung up crooked. Still, the room glowed, soft and warm. We didn't mention the farm again. That night, sleep betrayed me. I wandered through endless rows of trees in my dreams. Bulbs overhead fizzled out one by one behind me. Every turn, something moved just past sight, sliding silently behind trunks, waiting. I woke to buzzing. Another unknown number. Another photo. This one was the tree in Aaron's apartment. Taken from below, near the stand, looking up through the branches toward the ceiling. In the dark pockets between the boughs, the shadows curved and coiled. A hint of something long, pale, pressing inside the trunk like a limb curling close to the core, biding its time. I haven't set foot in a cut-your-own farm since. Every December, I get the smallest fake tree I can find. Lights on overhead, no surprises. I tell people it's easier on my allergies. I don't tell them that sometimes, when I pass Aaron's building at night and the window glows, I see the silhouette of his tree. And every so often, the lights jitter in a rhythm that has nothing to do with the wiring. Something inside, stretching, testing its new home. Waiting. Patient. The village looked tinier, but the tales felt heavier. That hit me first, as the bus curved around the last bend, revealing the cluster of rooftops buried in snow. The same old church steeple jutted up, crooked street lamps leaned like tired soldiers, and sagging wires drooped across frozen yards. Everything familiar, but shrunk, like someone had boiled my childhood down. Grandma Mara waited at the stop, scarf tight under her chin, boots planted like stakes in ice. She hugged me hard enough to make my ribs squeal. "Took your sweet time, Kira," she said, letting me go and eyeing my face. "City air thinned me out, or your memory just inflated you," I joked. She snorted, pulling me along. "Step inside before you freeze solid on the pavement." Her house hit me like déjà vu dipped in decay. Same chipped blue door, same lace curtains, same sugar and wood smell that stuck in your chest. But the ceilings felt lower, the hallway narrower. The crucifix over the kitchen door tilted at a sharper angle. "You picked the right year," she said, stirring a thick, dark liquid in a pot. "Tomorrow's the eve." Christmas Eve here wasn't mall lights or parades. It was rituals unraveling slowly. Morning mass, then cooking, then squeezing into cramped rooms, and finally, the stories. "You still tell them?" I asked. "The winter tales." Mara's eyes pinned me. "You think they stopped just 'cause you left? Stories don't need lungs to keep breathing." Her words chilled the kitchen more than the winter air. By late afternoon, the house swelled with relatives. Aunts had new wrinkles, cousins sported fresh ink. Strange kids ran about, calling me by name because someone had pointed and said, "That's Kira, used to be your size." After dinner, the lights flickered. Not unusual here. The lines were ancient, older than half the room. TV went dead. A muttered curse cut through the quiet. Mara clapped once. "Enough of that. We talk like the old days." The living room shifted under her authority. Chairs crept closer. Floor cushions claimed spaces. The kids formed a small, restless tide at her feet. "You remember the old stories?" one uncle teased. "Or have you switched to superheroes?" Mara narrowed her eyes. I remember what matters. She started easy. The man who tried to rob the church and sprouted hooves where his feet had been. The girl who chased a mysterious light into the forest and returned with snow-white hair. The kids shivered, stealing glances at the window when the wind rattled it. Then she dipped her voice, low, just above a whisper. And of course, the woman in white. The room shifted. Silence dragged in with her words. Even the older cousins muted their phones. You don't have to, my aunt murmured. They're just kids. They must hear it, Mara said. Once, so they know. She looked at me as she said it. The woman in white walks on Christmas Eve, she began. Only when the snow's right. Not too deep, not slushy. The kind that sings under your boots. Mia, my niece, curled her legs up beside me, suddenly frozen. She leaves no footprints, Mara went on. That's how you know it's her. She drifts between houses, staring through windows, not at the food, not at the tree, but at the faces. At the kids, whispered a small boy, eyes wide. Yes, at the kids, Mara confirmed. The ungrateful ones. The ones who toss gifts aside, spit at their mother's efforts, who mutter, I didn't want this, with sour mouths. Those are the ones she notices. What does she do? A girl asked. Mara's gaze flicked to the hallway mirror. Our reflections wavered in the dim light. She borrows their face, she said quietly. Just for a while. Until New Year. A nervous laugh rattled through the adults. What does that mean? Mia whispered. She goes quiet, Mara said. Eats what she's given but tastes nothing. Smiles when told, but her eyes stay blank. And in mirrors, windows, shiny ornaments, sometimes you see a kid looking back who isn't quite themselves. Stop, my aunt said lightly. You're giving them ideas. It's just a story, another cousin muttered. Mara's smile cut sharp. Of course, only a story. The light steadied. Wine was opened. Conversation shifted to safer ground. School, work, gas prices. Later, the younger kids were tucked into a bedroom with promises of Santa, and I helped Mara clear the kitchen. You never told that one when we were small, I said softly. You didn't need it then, she replied. Need what? A reminder. A threat, she said. You had other things to fear. I knew what she meant. My father. No words necessary. Where did you hear it? I pressed. She shrugged. Here, from my mother, from hers. The village had plenty of children. Not all were grateful. You make it sound like punishment, I said. Better fear than arrogance, she said, slamming down a stack of plates. Arrogant kids grow into arrogant men. Fear can be unlearned. Before I could answer, a shrill voice sliced through the hallway. I hate it! I hate it! Mia. We froze. In the bedroom, wrapping paper littered the floor like snow. The twins had opened most gifts early, an attempt to make the night manageable. Mia stood in the center, fists clamped around a garish sweater, cheeks streaked with tears. I wanted the other one, she screamed. You never listen. You never get it right. My sister's jaw locked. Say thank you, she ordered. Now I won't, Mia snapped, tossing the sweater. It hit the wall and slid down, leaving a glitter smear. Silence swallowed the room. Grandma Mara stepped into the doorway, expression unreadable. Careful tonight, she said. There are eyes on the windows. Mia hesitated, awareness dawning. Shame crept over her face. "I don't care," she muttered, but it sounded thin. That night, sleep refused. Snow weighed on the roof, wind clawed at eaves. Shadows from the street lamp stretched like skeletal fingers across the ceiling. I lay in my old, narrow bed, faded wallpaper and nail marks of posters long gone. Every mirror in the house had been covered. Even the small, glossy photo frames. Tradition, Mara had said. We always cover them on the eve. Sometime past midnight, the air thickened. I felt eyes on me. Only the dull orange strip from the street lamp lit the room. My breath caught. A dog barked once, then fell silent, as if gagged. I swung my legs over the side of the bed, the floor freezing against my feet. Movement flickered in the hall. The towel over the mirror had slipped, revealing a sliver of glass. One eye, half a mouth, my reflection. And behind it, just for a second, another shape. White. A shoulder curve. My heart thumped. I blinked. The towel slid back as if unseen hands had smoothed it down. A faint scratch, the drag of fabric across snow, reached my ears from outside the window. I froze until gray light bled through. At breakfast, everyone wore brittle cheer. Kids unwrapped last gifts. Mia moved like a ghost, careful, silent. "Are you okay?" I asked later. She nodded slowly. "Weird dream, but I don't think it was a dream." "What happened?" I asked. "I heard knocking," Mia said, voice low, almost trembling. She tapped the wall with 2 fingers. Barely a sound. I thought it was the twins, but they were buried under blankets, snoring. "The window," she whispered. "It glowed like someone flipped a giant switch outside. And I saw myself." My stomach twisted. "You saw yourself?" "Yeah," she said. "Out in the snow, but I wasn't me. Different clothes. My hands twisting the hem of my shirt." "And then?" "I closed my eyes," she said. "When I opened them, morning. It was like nothing happened." I wanted to shrug it off, blame her imagination or Grandma's story. But when I looked closer, my gut sank. Mia's face was the same, freckles, dimples, but her eyes weren't hers. They were borrowed, like someone else was testing them on. The rest of the day she acted perfect, polite, thanked everyone, ate all her food, smiled when prompted. Not a tantrum, not a complaint. Every movement was correct, careful, too precise. It should have comforted my sister. Instead, it set her on edge. I watched her from the corner of my eye, her gaze lingering on Mia whenever she thought no one noticed. New Year's morning came, gray and heavy. I found Mara in the kitchen, peeling towels off mirrors. Her movements were deliberate, slow. "Why do you really do that?" I asked. She ran a thumb along a mirror's edge, checking for streaks. The reflection wavered behind her. "Because this time of year, things are thin," she said. "Between here and there. Between what belongs to us and what doesn't. It's polite to close the doors." Her eyes held no humor. "And the woman in white," she added softly. "Some stories start from something that happened once," she said. "Then we tell them so it won't happen again. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't." She shrugged one shoulder, as if the weight of those words belonged to the wind outside. "You saw Mia." I left before dawn. The streets were empty, snow still crisp and brittle under my boots. My mind kept drifting back to the house, to the mirrors, to the pale eyes that weren't hers. The city swallowed me again. Lights and noise and people who didn't notice shadows in corners. But the memory of that night in the village lingered, sticky as frostbite. Every December, I buy the smallest fake tree I can find, set it up in my apartment with every overhead light blazing. No one knows why. I tell them allergies. But sometimes, when I pass by Aaron's old building, if his window is lit, the tree seems to shiver. Not the wiring, not the breeze. Something moves inside, testing its boundaries, waiting. Waiting for the next winter. Something that happened once, she said, voice tight like it carried ice. We tell 'em so it don't happen again. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it don't. She shrugged one shoulder, all that weight in that tiny gesture. You saw Mia. I left before the sky even hinted at morning. The bus headlights carved streaks through the pre-dawn blue, snow falling in chaotic static. My reflection sat on the window, half overlaying the dark fields we passed. For one flicker, another image pressed over mine. Pale, drifting between yards, head turned straight at me, eyes black and empty as burnt-out windows, mouth curled in a soft, tired smile. Blinked. Gone. Back in my apartment, mirrors stayed blank. No towels, no signs of comfort. The city had its own ghosts, and it didn't follow village rules. Still, every Christmas Eve, I find myself staring at reflective surfaces. Not for strangers. For that half-second lag when my face moves and something else remembers how to be me. They handed us red polos if we wanted extra hours. Corporate said cohesion mattered more than the fact that none of us wanted to be stuck in a half-empty mall on Christmas Eve, watching people claw for candles and last-minute gift cards. 8 of us, scattered along the halls like lost ornaments. My post was the security office, though calling it that made it sound like I ran the place. The room was tiny, wedged between staff bathrooms and a storage closet full of mannequin limbs. One wall was all monitors, 8 feeds split into squares. Entrances, food court corners, the atrium where we staged Santa photos. The other wall was a corkboard graveyard. Lost and found notes, mugshots, fire roots, a fading sign screaming, "Remember, we are the front line." 3 years on the seasonal grind at Fairview Mall. Long enough to see the worst of people under fluorescent lights. Kids vanish, then pop back like nothing happened. Teens cuffed over lip gloss. One guy punched a fake tree so hard he broke 2 fingers after a text from his ex. Long enough to think nothing could surprise me. Santa's setup sat dead center. A fake North Pole built from plywood hope. Red carpet, painted gift boxes stacked high, a cartoon village backdrop with a painted door. Behind it, a real corridor ended in a locked fire door wired to alarms. The guy in red that year? Fresh meat. Showed up December 1st with his own suit, boots, and fake beard he swore was movie grade. Kids adored him. Parents relaxed. Management saw their sales spike. We thought he took it way too seriously. Never broke character, not in break rooms, not in hallways. Voice low, warm, rounded. Never his real name. Santa's enough, he'd say, chuckling. Everything else matched. But his eyes. Behind wire-rimmed glasses, they were wrong. Dark, deep, like the color itself had been swallowed. Hit by light at the wrong angle, the pupils would flash white. Animal-like. By 4 p.m., the Santa line was a trickle. Most families were already through. Some prepped in November for the discount. The stragglers? Kids whose parents worked double shifts or finally caved after a week of begging. I sipped bad coffee, watching Camera 3, the wide angle over the North Pole, lines snaking toward the food court. Elves crouched at kids' levels, queue management in green vests, parents hovering, phones out. At 4:17, the girl in the red coat appeared. 6, maybe, dark braids, hat with pom-poms, sleeves swallowing her wrists. Clutching her mother's hand, craning her neck at the decor, mouth frozen in a silent wow. She shuffled forward, eyes wide, careful. An elf crouched, miming the usual. Name? Good this year? She nodded, shy wave at Santa. Normal. Then, 4:32. Mother glances down at her phone, a text, looks up. Girl gone. The feed shows it. One frame, she's at the velvet rope. Next frame, empty air where she was. Mother's fingers curl around nothing. Her head snaps up, silent scream forming. The office fell into a vacuum. Music, chatter, all gone. Only the mother's panic and the elf's blanching face remained. 30 seconds later, radio crackled. Control, we got a missing child at Santa. I moved before thinking, mic in hand. On my way. Description? Red coat, braids, 6. She was right here, swear. Keep calm. Lock the exits. Don't let anyone leave. Halfway to the door, I flicked back to camera 3. Chaos. Parents craning, mother gripping an elf, sobbing. Santa rose from the throne, one hand bracing the chair, the other placating. I flicked to camera 4, opposite side. There she was. One frame, she touches the platform. Next, stepping up, listening, tilting her head like she heard a secret. Santa pointed, not at the photographer, not the elves, but toward the painted door. She walked straight for it. The backdrop swallowed the view. Painted door, no handle, no hinge. She reached out. Her fingers vanished, not around, not behind, but into the surface. The flatness had depth her hand could find. My throat seized. Next frame, halfway through. Coat disappearing, braids swinging once. Face calm, surprised, not afraid. Gone. Painted door was just painted again. Heart pounding, I heard myself breathe. Camera 3 caught Santa staring at 4's lens. Glasses glinting, eyes hidden a second, then locked on me. I ran. By the North Pole, crowd fraying at the edges. Mother frozen in brittle panic, elves useless, pale. I flashed my badge. Checking cameras, lock exits, we'll find her. I didn't tell them the truth. I'd just seen a child walk through a wall that shouldn't exist. We sealed the mall, patrolled every exit, checked bathrooms, stores, closets. Nothing. Back in the office, cops leaned over my shoulder while I rewound the footage. Camera 3 first. She's there, one officer said, pointing. Next frame, gone. People moved, blocked her, picked her up. Happens fast. I switched to camera 4. Silence. Freeze that, the other muttered. Her hand on the painted door, paused frame. Up close, pixels smeared. Could have been anything. Bad lighting, cheap sensor choking on motion. Or maybe the wall had just stopped being a wall. Solid door, another officer said later, pushing against it. Wobbled, plywood flexed. Corridor behind it narrow, empty, dead-ended at locked fire door. Alarms showed no bypass. Could someone have left it open? I asked. Supervisor shook his head. Nothing. They hauled Santa into an empty store. I tracked him on monitors. No hat, no coat. Smaller, thinner, featureless. No one called his name. Employment check? Clean. Too clean. Address led to a P.O. box. Emergency number? Dead phone. Tax ID? Ghost. Questions tighten. He relaxes. Stops speaking in that careful voice. Stops smiling. Backroom statements? Garbage. Security cam shows him leaving hours later, escorted by 2 cops. No cuffs. Walks easy, hat in hand, beard gone. Face, wrong. Almost blank. Staff exit. He stops. Camera catches a tilt of the head, eyes locking the lens. Screen blares white for a heartbeat. Then, gone. Officers blink, confused, like something vanished next to them. Never made it to the station. Official line, released pending investigation. Rumor, dashcam footage cut mid-trip. Backseat empty, frame to frame. The girl? Never came back. Search dragged for days. Her face on corkboards, screens, lampposts. Volunteers scoured parking lots, ditches, woods. I burned hours on feeds, every entrance, hallway, stairwell. 4:34 p.m., December 24th. She walked into a painted door that shouldn't open. Never came out. Footage turned evidence, then training, then something else. Months later, last day on the mall's books. Head of security hands me a box. Your file. Technically unclaimed property. Clean your locker. Bottom of the box. A photo, glossy, corner bent. Santa photo. Fake fireplace, cartoon snow, throne. Center. The man in red. Smile in place. Eyes too dark, even printed. On his lap, a kid in red. The girl. Turned slightly, as if he'd just spoken her name. Eyes mid-blink. I flip it over. On the back, tiny, neat writing, not mine. December 25th. No year. I don't do mall security anymore. Nights at a warehouse now. Cameras? Just pallets and forklifts. The only Santa I see is on seasonal packaging. But come December, when windows glint with early lights, I dodge every photo. Not because of him. Because somewhere, hidden in the sea of smiling kids, a red coat waits. A shocked little face. Stamped with a date that hasn't come yet. The duplex came with a fireplace I didn't want and an attic that gave me the creeps. But it was $300 cheaper than anything else on the block. My bank account was practically begging for mercy, so I signed on the dotted line that Thursday and moved in the next weekend. The air inside smelled like someone else's life, burnt grease, chemical carpet cleaner, and a perfume so sharp it could make your eyes water, probably sprayed in panic by the last tenant. I spent the first couple days scrubbing every corner, cracking open windows, and daydreaming about what furniture I could afford once that first paycheck hit. It wasn't until week 2 that the attic caught my attention. The ladder was one of those fold-down, creaky deals in the hallway ceiling. Every step squealed like it hated me. Frank, the landlord, had mentioned leaving behind seasonal stuff if I wanted it, which I assumed meant busted decorations I was supposed to cherish out of pity. The attic smelled like cold dust and regret. My phone flashlight carved thin slivers of light through the gloom. Junk was everywhere. A mangled bed frame, boxes of soggy paperbacks, and a duck-shaped lamp that looked like it belonged in a nightmare. Then I saw it. A cardboard box scrawled with X-Mass in faded marker. Inside were knotted strings of lights, shattered ornaments, a reindeer missing an antler. At the bottom lay 6 handmade stockings, nicer than I dared hope. Quilted fabric, velvet trim at the tops, each in a different color. Red, green, blue, gold, purple, silver. Names stitched along the cuffs in neat looping script. Ethan, Mia, Lucas, Sophia, Noah, Grace. None rang a bell. Jenna Torres had lived here before me, according to the lease. Maybe they were her kids. Maybe she'd bought them secondhand and never swapped the names. They looked festive, and I needed something in the living room to trick myself into thinking my first grown-up Christmas would be more than surviving. I hauled them downstairs, washed them, and draped them over the mantel. They fit right in, the kind of cozy, old-fashioned thing in lifestyle magazines. Slightly worn in a way that felt planned, not sad. The first week was fine. Work at the hospital intake desk, come home too wiped to cook, shovel cereal into my mouth in front of streaming shows, doze off with the TV flickering. The duplex was quiet except for occasional thumps through the shared wall, neighbors moving furniture, dropping something heavy. Then came the weird stuff. Faint sounds at odd hours, little impacts that didn't make sense, footsteps echoing when no one was home. Every old building had noises, I told myself, and after years in dorms and shared apartments, I wasn't spooked by random creaks. But a week before Christmas, the timing got creepy. Every night, 12:15 a.m., thumps against the wall I shared with the vacant side. 3 knocks, pause, 3 more, then silence. First night, I ignored it. Second night, I knocked back, irritated. Third night, I pressed my ear to the drywall. Nothing. No voices, no footsteps. Just the hum of the heater and a faint buzz from someone else's fridge vibrating through the floor. Fourth night, I texted Frank. Neighbor knocking weird hours. Can you ask them to chill? An hour later. Other side vacant since October. Renovating. No one there. I read it 3 times. Then I went outside in slippers and coat, circled the front. Windows black, foreclosure notice taped inside the glass, no car in the driveway, no footprints in the frost. Back inside, I locked the door and tried to laugh it off. Pipes, settling, something mundane. But then items started disappearing. Small stuff first. My house key on the counter vanished for 2 days, then turned up in the bathroom sink. Hair tie, work badge, a pen from the drawer by the door. I blamed stress, long shifts, sleep deprivation. Then I found them in the stockings. I hadn't touched the mantel in days, but one morning, getting ready for work, I noticed a bulge in the green stocking labeled Mia. I yanked it down, heart racing. My house key inside. Ethan's held the hair tie neatly coiled. Lucas's the work badge. Sophia's the pen leaking slightly. The last 2 were empty for now. I dumped them on the couch and stepped back, expecting movement. Rational explanations ticked through my mind. Sleepwalking, dissociation, a neighbor playing a prank. But I lived alone. I'd changed all the locks. Never sleepwalked once in my life. That afternoon, I skipped work and hit the library computers, digging through property records. Jenna Torres had lived here 11 months, vanished suddenly in late summer. Before her, a Brennan couple. Nothing matched the stocking names. On a whim, I Googled the address with arrest and news. One article. Local woman arrested in connection with child welfare investigation. Jenna Torres, dark-eyed, jaw set, staring back at me. Sparse details. Alleged involvement, undocumented minors, ongoing investigation. Kids unnamed due to privacy. Case dismissed 6 months later. I stared at the photo a long time. Jenna had been here while that mess went down. That night, I yanked the stockings down, shoved them in a garbage bag, dragged it to the curb. At 12:15 a.m., the knocking returned. Louder. Relentless. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, heart hammering. Footsteps overhead. Attic. I grabbed the phone, hand trembling, and dialed 911. Calm dispatcher asked questions, confirmed doors were locked. Stay on the line. Officers are on the way. Footsteps halted. Then a softer sound. Fabric scraping wood. Dragging. 12 minutes later, cops showed up. Barefoot, shivering, I met them outside. Attic empty, other unit locked and vacant. History of pests? One asked. Raccoons, maybe? I shook my head. Footsteps. Human. They exchanged looks. File a report. No signs of break-in. Might be nerves. Cameras could help. After they left, I went inside. The garbage bag sat on the porch, untied. Stockings folded neatly next to it. On top, something missing I hadn't noticed. My apartment lease. And in Ethan's red stocking, a Polaroid I'd never seen. My living room, my couch, me asleep, blanket tangled, face toward the camera. Hallway angle. Tiny scrawl. You keep what is ours. I packed that night. No morning, no notice, just threw everything in the car, left keys on the counter. Landlord kept my deposit. Didn't argue. New place across town. Bland, security cameras, thin walls. Bought new decorations. No stockings. Never again. The new apartment was bland and boring. All beige walls and sterile hallways. Security cameras lined the ceiling like unblinking eyes. Thin walls let me hear the world around me. Neighbors arguing over bills. Someone singing off-key in the shower. Doors slamming in ordinary lives I didn't belong to. I bought new holiday decorations, cheap but cheerful. No stockings. Not even a whiff of red velvet or embroidery. Never again. Weeks passed. I thought I had escaped. That is, until last week, when a misdelivered piece of mail changed everything. The neighbor brought it over. No return address. I opened it carefully. Inside was a photograph, glossy paper this time, not Polaroid. My new living room. My couch. And hung on the wall, a single stocking, red fabric, gold trim. My name stitched in looping cursive across the cuff. Olivia. I don't know how they found me. I don't know how many names are left to fill, but I know the pattern now. And every night, without fail, at 12:15 a.m., the sound comes back. 3 soft, deliberate knocks. Not on the wall this time, on my bedroom door. I lie in bed, heart hammering, blankets tangled around my arms. The knocks echo, solid and patient, like the person behind them knows exactly what they're doing. Waiting. Watching. I don't move. I don't speak. I just stare at the door, wide-eyed in the darkness, the shadows in my room growing long and restless under the streetlight filtering through the blinds. I hear a scrape, light but unmistakable. Something brushing across the floor outside my door. The hinges groan. My chest tightens. Every instinct screams to run, but where could I go? The apartment is locked down tight. Security cameras all around, but useless for what's happening now. This is something I can't film, can't warn anyone about. The smell hits me first. Dust and stale wood. The faint tang of old perfume. The same scent from that first duplex. My stomach twists. I realize it doesn't matter how far I move, how many locks I add, how many times I tell myself it's impossible. It follows. It knows where I am. I press myself against the wall opposite the door, eyes locked on the doorknob. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 more. Then silence. And then the soft slide of fabric again, just outside. My old brain wants to rationalize. Wind, rodents, some prank. But deep down I know better. I know what's coming, even if I don't know what it looks like. I reach for my phone. My hands shake. I want to call the cops, but what could they do? Last time they saw nothing. No footsteps, no signs. Just me, a photograph, and an empty hallway. I tell myself to breathe, slow down, keep calm. But the instinct to flee is there, gnawing at me like rats in the walls. I can hear it now, just beyond the door. Subtle shifts, tiny taps, like fingers dragging over the wood. Not aggressive, not threatening exactly, just present. Watching, waiting. I remember the stockings. Ethan, Mia, Lucas, Sophia, Noah, Grace. Names stitched in someone else's careful hand. I remember that Polaroid. My face tangled in blankets, completely unaware. And I know they've always been keeping track. Watching me. The stockings are never empty. They never forget. A shadow stretches along the crack under the door. The knocks start again, slow and patient. 3. Pause. 3. And I see it, a flicker of red at the bottom of the door, a curve of gold trim catching the dim light. My name stitched neatly across the cuff. Olivia. I can't move. My breath sticks in my throat. The air tastes sharp and metallic, and every hair on my arm stands up. I realize with bone-deep certainty that the past never really lets go. The duplex, the attic, Jenna Torres, the stolen items, they were just practice. The real game is here, in my new apartment, on my quiet street, under the flicker of my own ceiling light. The knocks stop. Silence. I hold my breath, waiting for a sound, any sound. A soft drag, a shift in the carpet. Nothing. I think maybe it's gone. Relief begins to creep in, a fragile, almost foolish hope. Then the knocks come again. 3. Pause. 3. Louder this time, deliberate, like it's enjoying the tension. My phone slips from my hands and hits the floor with a hollow thud. I don't dare bend down to pick it up. My mind races through every possible escape route, every rational explanation. But there's nothing. Nothing that fits. I press my back against the far wall, trying to disappear into the shadows. The red of the stocking flutters slightly, though there's no breeze. And then I hear it, faint but clear, a whisper crawling under the door. My name. Olivia. The room feels smaller now, suffocating, the ceiling lower, the walls closer. I can't tell if the sound is inside my head or coming from the apartment. I shut my eyes, but the sound follows. The weight of eyes on me, unblinking, constant. Every instinct screams to run, to pack a bag, to disappear. But I know it doesn't matter. The photograph wasn't a mistake. The stocking isn't a decoration. This isn't about Christmas. It's about the collection, the pattern, and the fact that I've been noticed. I don't move. I don't speak. I only wait, listening, counting the seconds, hoping the door stays closed, hoping the shadow stays small. The knock comes one last time before the hour strikes 12:16. 3 taps, pause, 3 more. Silence. But I know it will come back. Every night, like clockwork, I hear it. 3 soft knocks on my bedroom door. And I know, deep down, that the red velvet is never empty. The list is never done. And the watchers are still out there, patient, calculating, and ready. The fear isn't about what they might do. It's about knowing they already have. The shortcut didn't exist on any map that made sense. On my phone, our car floated in a blank gray void, the navigation app's blue line jittering and snapping like it was having a nervous breakdown. Outside, snow was swallowing everything beyond the headlights, folding the 2-lane road into a tunnel of white. "This is still faster, right?" said Danny, curled up in the passenger seat, knees tucked under her chin, fingers buried in her coat sleeves. The dashboard cast a soft glow on her face, making her look like the teenager she used to be, instead of the woman grinding through graveyard shifts and texting me memes at 3 a.m. According to this, we've been 10 minutes from Grandma's for 30 minutes, I muttered. She snorted. Mom's gonna murder you if we miss dinner. Mom's happy I'm driving at all, I said. Remember last time I volunteered? I ended up in a snowbank. That wasn't a snowbank, Danny said. That was a decorative hedge. And you traumatized Mrs. Halpern's lawn gnome. The wipers squeaked against the windshield. The snow had started as harmless flakes, dissolving on contact back on the highway. Now it stuck, layering over the asphalt in a way that made my knuckles tense around the wheel. The main turn-off to the farm should have appeared 10 minutes ago. It hadn't. Maybe we passed it, Danny said. I'm doing 40, I replied. I would have seen it. She pressed her forehead to the cold glass, staring into the dark. Pull over, she said suddenly. Great idea, I muttered, sarcasm thick. No, look, she pointed. Off to the right, past the ditch and a skeletal line of barbed wire, a cluster of lights shimmered in the snow, warm yellow against the gray. Not the harsh glare of headlights, not the cold blue of a porch sensor. Farmhouse, I breathed, relief loosening my shoulders. Maybe we'd overshot. Maybe the road loops around. Looks like Christmas lights, she said. I eased the car forward. From the angle, the lights traced the edge of a roof, dipping over a porch. Strings of bulbs faintly flickered through the falling snow. Between us and the house lay a wide, empty field. Flat, endless white. That's weird, I said. The map showed no road, just gray emptiness. The blue line stubbornly pointed forward. Another 50 yards, and a small wooden sign rose from the snow on the right. I leaned closer. Headlights washed over faded paint. Christmas Eve service, all welcome, 7 p.m. The arrow pointed straight across the field toward the house. What time is it? Danny asked. 6:42, I said. She bit her lip. Mom's going to think we died. We should call her. No signal, I said, holding up my phone. Nothing. Out here, nothing worked. We sat for a moment, engine idling, heater pumping lukewarm air. The house looked like it belonged in a different world. Light poured from the windows in thick golden rectangles. Strings of bulbs along the roof swayed slightly, though no wind touched them. Another row of smaller lights dotted the path to the front door, a golden dotted line through black snow. It's probably just some little country church thing, Danny said. We can ask directions, warm up, use a phone that actually knows where we are. The thought of stepping into a warm room full of people, rather than sliding into a ditch on an unmarked road, felt suddenly irresistible. Fine, I said. 2 minutes. Say hi. Ask about the main road. Leave. I killed the engine. Silence pressed in, thick, muffled by snow. The ditch looked shallow enough, but the snow swallowed our boots to the ankles with each step. It squeaked underfoot, the dry, brittle sound that only comes when the cold reaches a certain bone-deep level. Halfway across, I glanced back. Our car sat alone, hazards blinking weakly. Beyond it, nothing. Just the suggestion of roads buried under snow. The farmhouse grew clearer as we approached. 2 stories, old but well kept, wreath on the door, candles glowing in the windows. Do you hear that? Danny whispered. At first, I thought it was the hiss of snow. Then I realized it was music, faint and warped like an old record player skipping. A carol drifting across the field, not jolly, not from commercials. Minor key, looping, crawling under my jacket, raising goosebumps. Maybe they're rehearsing, I said. For what? A funeral, I muttered. We reached the porch. Boards creaked under our weight. The lights along the roof were glass, humming faintly, radiating heat even in the frozen air. I knocked. Silence. Knocked again, harder. The door eased open with a soft click. "Hello?" I called. Warm air hit us, scented with cinnamon and something dusty. "Maybe they're in the back," Danny said. "Or maybe this is how people get murdered," I muttered. We stepped inside. The hallway was narrow, lined with coats from decades past. Wool overcoat, faded denim jacket, a child's orange puffer jacket from some forgotten year. "Hello," I said again. "Sorry, we're lost." Silence. Music, louder now, coming from a room to our right. We followed it. The living room looked normal at first glance. Tree in the corner, lights twinkling, stockings on the mantel. Fire low, steady. Table set for dinner. Plates, silverware, glasses, roast browned perfectly. Bowls of sides. Everything arranged as if someone had just stepped out. Empty. "Okay, this is creepy," Danny muttered. "Maybe they're in the kitchen," I said. We peeked. Pristine. Counters wiped. Stove off. No one. "Maybe it's one of those living history things," Danny said weakly. On the mantel, framed photos in a row. Families around the same table, same tree, same wreath. 2 empty chairs at the front, always the same. The earliest, 1950s maybe, 2 people turned toward the empty spots. Later ones grew resigned, faces less hopeful. "Maybe we should go," I said. "Wait," Danny whispered. She pointed at the last photo. No date, colors too bright, lighting flat. Blurry around the edges, like pasted in. The empty chairs looked sharper than everything else. Pale shapes, maybe shoulders. The music shifted, needle catching, repeating a few notes. Something brushed the tree from inside. I stepped back. "Hello?" I called, louder. "We're sorry, we're leaving." No answer. A grandfather clock in the hallway chimed 7, slow, heavy strokes vibrating through my chest. When it finished, the front door slammed. We jumped. "That was the wind," I said. "Sure," Danny muttered. We hurried to the entryway. The door was shut, latch firm. I turned it. Cold metal. Opened easily. Outside, field stretched as before. Our car a lump on the road. But the house, something had changed. Windows warped, table and chairs stretched, empty spaces like open mouths. 2 figures seemed to sit behind us in the reflection. Blink. Gone. "Okay. Nope. Time to go." We slogged back across the snow, now up to our shins. Wind cut through every gap. Legs burning, lungs raw. Engine started first try. Headlights swept the wooden sign. New words had appeared. Service continued. Seating limited. "Did you see that before?" Danny asked. No. 5 minutes later, phone chirped. Signal. Route snapped back. Blue line reappeared. Turn right in 100 yards. Sign for Grandma's farm emerged. We pulled into the driveway as night swallowed the sky. Everything was ordinary. Mom scolded, hugged us hard. Grandma fed us like we were starving. Comfort and chaos. Later, I stood at the back door, staring at faint yellow lights on the horizon. "Old Carroll house," Grandpa said. "Been empty for years." Empty? Place burned in the 70s, never rebuilt. Unless ghosts decorate now. Lights flickered once. gone. Months later, back in my apartment, a card arrived with no return address. Inside, a photograph. Dining room, table, tree, 2 chairs in front. Not empty now. 2 figures sat, faces blurred, shoulders familiar. On the back, "Thank you for joining us." Postmark smeared, date unreadable. Some nights, when snow muffles the city, I still look for those bulbs. If I see them again, I won't cross that field a second time. The air inside my apartment had that sterile, post-move feel, but I couldn't shake it. Every night, at exactly 12:15, I heard it again. 3 soft taps. Not on the wall this time, on my bedroom door. My hand trembled as I gripped the knob, expecting it to move on its own, but it didn't. I told myself it was imagination, sleep deprivation, the echoes of an old fear that never left. I moved into the duplex because it was cheap, because it had a fireplace I never asked for, and an attic I sure didn't plan on exploring. The rent was $300 less than anywhere else in the neighborhood, and my budget at that point was arguing with itself. Lease signed on a Thursday, I moved in over a weekend that hovered just above freezing. The place reeked of someone else's life. Cooking grease, carpet cleaner, and whatever perfume the last tenant had sprayed like it was a weapon. First 2 days were a scrubbing marathon. I aired the rooms, calculated which furniture I could actually afford once my first paycheck cleared, and tried not to gag. It was during the second week that I finally climbed the attic ladder. Pull-down type, hinges groaning every time I shifted weight. Frank, the landlord, had said something about leaving seasonal items. I figured it meant junk I should be grateful for. The attic was bitter, stale air biting at my lungs. Dust danced in my flashlight's beam. Most of it was garbage: disassembled bed frame, moldy paperback boxes, a duck-shaped lamp. Then a box marked Xmas, faint marker scrawled across the side. Inside, tangled lights, shattered ornaments, a reindeer with 1 antler snapped. At the bottom, 6 handmade stockings, quilted, velvet trim, each a different color: red, green, blue, gold, purple, silver. Names stitched in careful cursive: Ethan, Mia, Lucas, Sophia, Noah, Grace. I didn't know any of them. The last tenant was Jenna Torres, according to the lease. Maybe they were her kids. Maybe she bought them second-hand. I washed them, hung them across the mantel. For a while, it was perfect. Magazine-level cozy, traditional, intentionally shabby. I worked hospital intake, came home too tired to cook, ate cereal in front of streaming shows, fell asleep with the TV on. The duplex was quiet. Sometimes there were thumps through the shared wall. Every old building has noises, I told myself. Then, a week before Christmas, it started. Same time every night, 12:15 a.m. Muffled thumps. 3 knocks, pause, 3 more. Silence. First night, ignored. Second night, knocked back. Third night, pressed my ear to the wall. Nothing. Only the hum of the heater and faint vibrations from a neighbor's fridge. But the neighbor had moved out in October. By the 4th night, I texted Frank. Neighbor knocking on wall at odd hours. Can you ask them to stop? An hour later. Other side vacant, renovating. No one there. I walked outside, slippers and coat, checked the dark windows. Foreclosure notice taped to the door. No car, no footprints. Back inside, I chalked it up to pipes or settling. Then I noticed things missing. Small stuff at first. House key, hair tie, work badge, pen. I blamed stress, long hours, sleep deprivation. Then the stockings. The green one, Mia, bulging. Inside, my house key. Ethan, hair tie. Lucas, work badge. Sophia, pen, cap off, ink bleeding. Other two, empty. I backed away like they might spring to life. Rational thoughts raced. Sleepwalking, dissociation, prankster neighbor. But I lived alone. Changed the locks. Never sleepwalked. That afternoon I hit the library. Public computers. Property records. Jenna Torres had lived there 11 months, left suddenly. Before her, a couple named Brennan. Before them, someone else. Stalking names? No match. Impulse search. Address plus arrest plus news. Article. Local woman arrested in child welfare investigation. Photo. Jenna Torres, eyes dark, jaw set. Sparse details. Children unnamed. Case dismissed 6 months later. She had lived in my duplex during this. That night, I bagged the stockings, dragged the bag to the curb. At 12:15, knocking louder, steady, insistent. I froze, blankets around me. Footsteps overhead. My attic. I grabbed my phone, hands shaking, called 911. Dispatcher calm. Address? Doors locked? Yes. Officers on the way. Footsteps stopped. A faint dragging sound, fabric across wood. 12 minutes later, cops. Barefoot, shivering, I met them. Checked attic, other unit, nothing. Any history of rodents? Raccoons? No. Footsteps. Human. They filed a report, left, suggestion of cameras. I went back inside. The bag sat on the porch, untied, stockings folded, my lease on top. In the red one, Ethan, a Polaroid. Me asleep on the couch, shot from the hallway, small, shaky writing. You keep what is ours. I packed immediately. No notice. Keys on the counter. Landlord kept deposit. I found a new place across town, bland, secure, thin walls. New decorations, no stockings. Never again. Weeks later, mail misdelivered. Neighbor handed me an envelope, no return. Inside, glossy photo. My living room, my couch. A single red stocking with gold trim. My name stitched in cursive. Olivia. I don't know how they found me. Don't know how many names remain. But at 12:15 every night, I hear it. 3 soft knocks. On my bedroom door. And I don't cross the threshold.